it occurred to me maybe I should buy some Bitcoin. And almost as soon as I had the thought, I remembered I already did that. I did that a very, very long time ago in 2010. I put some Bitcoin on a hard drive, and I was like, it's been so long. It's been so much time. There's no way. I mean, I was dumb enough to lose it. I certainly wasn't dumb enough to find it again.
All right, we're rolling.
All right, rock and roll.
Just two of us in the pod right now. Very shortly, we're going to be joined by our special guest and mutual friend, Josh, who's got an incredible story that you've been a part of. But before we get there, Joshua, why don't you just give us a little background on who you are, what you do in this world, and how you found Bitcoin?
Yeah, right on. Thanks for having me, Kyle. And yeah, I met you in Vegas last month, and man, it was really great to kind of connect around adventure, and you've got a keen mind, a passion for Bitcoin. I feel like Bitcoiners come from all walks of life. For me, I've been in the mountains most of my life as an adventure athlete, and climbing, base jumping, paragliding, speed flying, just loving the, nature, being on the rivers and out exploring. I found Bitcoin in 2014 when it went from, a few dollars to a few $100s. And I remember that feeling of like devastation. I was like, I knew about Austrian economics. My dad raised me like knowing about hard money, and I knew this was something I needed to pay attention to. And I had a business and a relationship and things, and I didn't. And I remember the visceral feeling of just like devastation. I was like, I missed out. I will live every day of my life knowing that I knew about this thing and I didn't take advantage of it. And so I just forgot about it, or didn't forget about it, but I just like rage quit or whatever, because I was like, damn it, I missed it. And then 2017 came along, went to 20,000. And during that time, I put my savings in Bitcoin because I realized, all right, this is like, I've got it. This is something more than just a few $100s. And yeah, put my savings in that. And then after that, 2019 came along. During COVID, I saw the world kind of coming apart. The media narrative was just incessant, the same words all the time across all, around the world. So I was like, man, something's not right. And I realized that that I needed to understand the world. So I studied history, economics, and tried to understand where I needed to put myself in order to preserve my time into the future and gain wealth. And I kept coming back to Bitcoin as a foundation. Ended up putting my savings in Bitcoin and going on a Bitcoin standard. And yeah, that was kind of, I never looked back from that. So after 2019, I spent the next 5 years dedicating myself to Bitcoin. I didn't know how I was going to be involved. I didn't try to make money in it or anything. But I basically dedicated myself to learning how to custody my own Bitcoin, because I realized there wasn't a solution out there. There were a lot of different companies that were selling you a hardware wallet, and then that hardware wallet you would be able to click through and basically trust them, and that kind of defied a lot of the reasons why we Bitcoin. If you could trust a Ledger or a Trezor as a company, like, we wouldn't need Bitcoin. We would just say, hey guys, can you I trust you to set the ledger straight. So you can't trust the banks, we can't trust the government, we can't trust Ledger or Trezor or any other, I don't want to name a name of a hardware wallet. And I think those wallets are great if people are using them. It's fantastic. But just the premise is that we have to take a responsibility for ourselves. And that's where I think that's where the self-custody best practices was born. Was me taking my background. I'm also a commercial pilot. I managed an aviation company in Australia for 10 years. And I took that knowledge of systems and risk management and applied it to Bitcoin self-custody, and made best practices that I gave hundreds of workshops on, and helped my friends and friends' businesses take custody of their Bitcoin.
Joshua, thank you for giving us your background. I identify as an adventure athlete as well. I'm not going up and flying around in the air like you. But before this podcast was rolling, we were having a great chat about the relationship around managing risk. So we're going to talk a lot about that today with Josh, self-custody, Bitcoin. How has your relationship with risk impacted your approach to taking self-custody?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I guess it's kind of foundational, isn't it? Where I understand risk from I guess my degree was in aviation management, and I managed like I said, a Skydance adventure tourism aviation company in Australia, and in that you kind of understand how to take apart risks. I guess you have like consequence times likelihood. So something's really low likelihood but high consequence. It's still a high risk. So you want to really take that seriously, even if the risk is even if the likelihood's small. So self-custody, risk management. I think that it takes some time to really sit back and think and assess that from an objective perspective, and that's kind of hard. So I did that, and I think that if someone else does that, like a hardware wallet company or something, they can kind of like say, hey, here's what to do, and then you can kind of know that that someone's at least considered how to do it. So for my risk taking, I think just having an understanding of risk and being able to take risk with full commitment, knowing that you've considered the risks involved. So there's not going to be a apprehension. And what I think that results in is holding your Bitcoin for longer, and also being able to take, it's like the biggest risk with Bitcoin is it goes up a 10x or 100x and you sell it. You're like, sweet, Lamborghini, new home, whatever. And then you don't have any more Bitcoin. And so it's like you miss out on those lessons. And I think people lose like 97% of their Bitcoin usually. If you look at how much Bitcoin could you have bought if you first started buying, if you bought all of your net worth in Bitcoin when you first started Bitcoin, not net worth, but all your savings, all you could, and then you look at how much Bitcoin you actually bought, it's usually it's 2 to 3%. I've worked it out. And so I think that if you have a strategic and kind of level-headed approach to risk, especially following the best practices with NovaSapien or someone else who's a Bitcoin consultant, then they're going to be able to give you that confidence to know that everything has been considered, and you're going to hold your Bitcoin for longer, and you're going to kind of be able to adopt the ethos and the benefits that Bitcoin give you, that are largely independent of number go up.
Fantastic. It's so true. I got into Bitcoin 2020, so I had to learn from the OGs that were there before, not all the OGs, but people that were there before me. You hear what they say, and it's an absolute pattern that you would end up with more Bitcoin if you just bought it and held it. If you try and trade it, if you try and time the markets,
boom, yeah.
Not only are you going to end up with less Bitcoin, but you're going to spend a lot of peace of mind and energy and time that you can't get back. So,
yeah,
I think that's really interesting. The thing around risk that you said that I really want to latch onto is that when you think things through and plan things out, you might be in a situation where the stakes are very high. You're jumping off a mountain, you're jumping out of a plane, but because you've done the preparation, you're not. I mean, you tell me how you feel in those moments. But when I watch a documentary like Free Solo with Alex Honnold, the guy's pushing the limits. Like for the average person, it's like mind blowing. But for him, he's managing that risk extremely well. He probably feels safer on the side of that wall than on the highway to drive to Yosemite. So I think there's something to be said there just about like doing the education and research. But then there's the other side of it, which is that it takes time to actually get fully convicted on Bitcoin. Very few people that I've met have found Bitcoin and become orange pilled within, call it, a few months. Like it takes time to get there.
Absolutely.
On
that note, just before we introduce Josh Swift, it's great to see you, man. The risk you just reminded me of what it's like to sit on the edge of a base jump and prepare. You've done the training, you've prepared this in your mind, you've rehearsed it in your mind, you've packed your parachute, you've done all the checks, you've done your buddy checks, and then at that point you have to surrender to the possibilities and commit, knowing that you've prepared. And then it's only when you have a full surrender and full commitment that you're able to perform at the ability that you need to. And I think that that's the same way with. I guess it's kind of dramatic, but like a similar way with Bitcoin self-custody. It's like once you have taken the steps to secure things properly and learn about Bitcoin and do the preparation, then you can commit, and you don't have to always be wondering, oh, did I back that up properly, or is this secure? Does Ledger have a copy of my keys? Have I clicked the backup keys or whatever? These kinds of things. So that's like that's on that. But anyways, yeah.
All right. Well, now the man, the myth, the legend has arrived. Josh, how are you doing today?
Oh, it's really great to be here. This is all kind of new for me. I'm still adapting to the new status that I have obtained as a Bitcoin OG. That wasn't exactly something I was expecting with my life, but here we are. So just rolling with the punches.
Fa-
So I'll start with my story a little bit.
Perfect.
In late 23, early 24, I had some family health issues. My mom was sick. There really wasn't anyone to take care of her, so I moved out and moved in with her to take care of her. And she basically lived out in the middle of nowhere, so that circling the wagons around her essentially led to me losing my jobs and my girlfriend also deciding better than being in the relationship with me. So we basically just were trundling along there for quite some time, and things were not looking good for anybody. I was brought pretty low. I was not in a good way. Um, and fortunately I had a little bit of money, so I was thinking about, what do I do with it? Do I invest it? Do I put it in the stock market? Do I buy real estate? I don't know. I don't know, but I've always been kind of a nerd, and it occurred to me maybe I should buy some Bitcoin. And almost as soon as I had the thought, I remembered I already did that. I did that a very, very long time ago in 2010. Um, I put some Bitcoin on a hard drive, and I was like, well, it's been so long. It's been so much time. There's no way that I still have this. That I still. I mean, I was dumb enough to lose it. I certainly wasn't dumb enough to find it again. So that was basically my attitude, and I thought, but it's too much. I can't not check. I absolutely have to check. So I went around my house, went into my closet, went into my garage, and then eventually ended up in the shed. And the shed has become sort of mythical now. And I found a box of hard drives in the shed, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. So, and I just had this sort of pack rat mentality when I disassembled old computers, that I would just store the hard drive, just because one day I would maybe come back and think, oh, well, this is an interesting file or a poem or a pretty picture that I drew, and I'll keep it for posterity's sake. I wasn't exactly anticipating Bitcoin being on one of those drives, but later it turns out that that was the case. I didn't know that. I All I had was this box of drives, so I found a little $10 adapter and plugged it into each of the drives, and then found one that uh, probably matched the time period and the operating system that I was using at the time. And basically, going on that and that alone, I I sat on it for about 5 or 6 months, because I knew that I couldn't just go on Craigslist and tell people, hey, come to my house and help me recover my Bitcoin. That was not going to go well.
Smart.
So I sat on it, trying to find, somebody who was trustworthy and had integrity and would help me recover it. And then, on an unrelated note, I decided to go to Porcfest, because I was trying to find my people and trying to find, free thinkers, libertarians, and people who just think outside of the box. And so I went there, and then it was really great, and we're about to go back again. I'm looking forward to it. But last year, I attended one of Josh Groth's NovaSapien's self-custody workshops at Porcfest, and then he made an offhand remark in the workshop that he had helped somebody recover their Bitcoin. So I was like, oh man, this is my shot. I gotta do it now. I gotta do it. So I went up to him and I said, Josh, will you help me recover this Bitcoin? I think I might have it. And he says, if you fly out, he will help me. And 2 weeks later, I fly out, and 8 days after that, we recover the Bitcoin.
Oh my goodness, man. Wow.
It was
So, okay.
So
a full 8 days. That was like day and night. We were running and gunning.
Okay, so I've got
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I was just gonna say life was happening too at the same time, so that probably had something to do with it. And I'll also point out he gave me a full workshop on how to properly do self custody at the same time, and set me up with a node and taught me basically everything I needed to know to properly self custody Bitcoin, so I was never in the same position again.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be in this position again, man. No, once you've touched the stove once, or almost lose some Bitcoin, I think we all start realizing how important it is. So today, definitely, we're going to talk about self custody. But before we get into that, I just have questions because I'm curious about this story. So Porcfest, first of all, is a libertarian event, a lot of comedians, you talked about finding your people. I'm curious, like, what called you to do that? You were in a bad place in your life. You kind of brushed over it quickly, but, we've all been in dark places and we know what that's like. I'm curious, like, what called you to go try and find your people and what that experience has been like, I guess.
Yeah, so I've always been sort of a lurker on the internet, following YouTube channels and podcasts and sort of listening to the independent media. Never really got involved. Through most of my life, I was just an IT professional and programmer. So this was all stuff out there on the internet. It wasn't, these weren't people I knew. These weren't relationships that I had. And because of the situation with my mother, it was increasingly apparent to me that my time constraints were only going to get worse. And so if I wanted to do anything for myself that summer, I needed to do it then. And I didn't really have any friends at the time because I don't want to go too deep here, but suffice to say that when you're in a long-term relationship with someone, friends can kind of tend to go to the wayside. And then if that relationship ends, then of course it's, you don't want to just go back to all the all the friends that you abandoned because you're in this relationship. So that's not exactly a good thing to do. And I have to cop to that, and I take full responsibility, for how my life worked out. But I was trying to turn it around and find my people again and find better people. And given my time constraints, so I just went to Porcfest and I met a ton of really great people there. Ron Paul spoke. I met Josh, and I'm really looking forward to going back again to talk about libertarianism and talk about anarcho-capitalism and have these kinds of discussions with some of the best minds in the world. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I hope I get to visit at some point. Some of my favorite podcasters attend and talk about it quite a bit, but I've heard New Hampshire's the haven for libertarianism. The question that everyone is thinking right now, which you're not going to answer and I'm not going to ask you, which is how much Bitcoin is on the wallet, right? No Bitcoiner is going to tell you how much Bitcoin they have, and you're definitely not going to tell us how much is on the wallet. But I'm curious, like, was it a life-changing amount, and what was the feeling that you went through when you figured out how much it was? And yeah, just talk to me about that. I'm very curious.
Yeah, it was a bit of a roller coaster, honestly. So I had a little bit of cash, like I said, and I was thinking about investing it, and that kind of led me down this journey. But because of the situation, I was basically poor, and I've lived close to poverty for most of my life. Now, I've been somewhat insulated, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there, but I was working very hard and not actually having a lot of financial success. And I was doing a lot of open source work as well and giving a lot of my time away for free, sort of altruistically. So that it doesn't translate to a lot of financial success, as anybody in open source will tell you, generally speaking. Sometimes it does, but generally not. So that said, I basically in that time period over the last year have gone from poverty to being in the top 1 or 3% of for my age group. So it's been quite a journey, and then to see the price action, and it's only going up, and then the wealth is only increasing, and I basically went all in because of Josh's NovaSapien's work. I took everything else that I had and dumped it into Bitcoin. And I am so glad that I did, because even on the money that I had that wasn't those OG bags, I've made considerable returns already just in the last year. So it's just been a really all around life changing in every way.
Joshua, I want to bring in you and get your perspective on this meeting Josh. And what was it like when he said to you, "Hey, I might have some Bitcoin to recover"? How did you think about that? Hey, maybe he has 1 Bitcoin, or zero point 0.1 Bitcoin or something. Like, was it like, what was your reaction to that? And walk me forward. Is this the biggest recovery that you've had? Have you seen other ones similar? Like, just what was your perspective on the whole thing?
Yeah, I was super grateful to meet Josh and see his whole journey. The whole thing was just really rewarding. It was not the first Bitcoin wallet that I had recovered, and like I said, over the last, before Josh joined, I was just explaining that I've spent since like 2019 basically just dedicating my life to Bitcoin, understanding how it works, helping other people take self custody, just playing around with self custody, being totally obsessed. And through that process, I met a lot of people who had Bitcoin on old hard drives. I've worked with a number of hard drives that are from the same time period. So I was familiar with the ins and outs, and I had a plan in place for the different levels. Like, is it corrupted? Is it damaged? Is it encrypted? Is it password protected or encrypted, etc.? And so in the past, I'd had, I think I successfully recovered some Bitcoin for some people, for one particular person, which was an insane amount of Bitcoin, but he kind of ghosted, which is understandable, no hard feelings. But since then, I had more like clear, like, hey, look, this is the expectation, and this is the benefit of doing it with me, is that we don't just go and get Bitcoin and get rich. We actually understand how Bitcoin works. We set up a multi-signature distributed across specific jurisdictions, so you don't have one state or one authority over all of your keys. An estate plan, so that if you are unable to use your Bitcoin, or unable to, you're incapacitated or something, your family is able to recover it, giving your attorney a heavily encrypted file that explains the Bitcoin specialists that are there to help, and the locations, things like that. And then some other kind of elsewhere, like a decryption key that some other person somewhere has, and they don't know who each other are. It's distributed. So through that, you don't have security by obscurity. You want security out of the security of the system. And so this way you have this this place, multi-continent or multi-state, multi-signature, estate plan, and all that kind of stuff set up. And so it's far more value than just, oh, let's go get your Bitcoin and get rich. So it's
100%.
yeah. So that's like, that relates to someone having Bitcoin for longer and kind of really benefiting from the Bitcoin, and having the Bitcoin ethos permeate and benefit from that. But the experience for me was transformative. It was like, it was just enjoyable, the entire experience, meeting Josh and then having him fly out, getting to witness him going through that journey. And it's kind of it was, it gets a little bit emotional as well, because you're like, wow, look, this is what we're actually accomplishing, is pretty cool. So it's something I'm really passionate about, and I would love to be able to do this for other people as well.
Beautiful. You gave me chills when you said that, because it's so true. I mean, at the end of the day, Bitcoin is just money, and it's really a tool to improve our lives, right?
Yeah.
And what I find maybe the most incredible thing about this story is that you were able to communicate so much about Bitcoin to Josh, and Josh was able to learn and pick it up and not sell the Bitcoin, right? Because, Josh, let me ask you this. If you knew you had that Bitcoin since 2010, do you think you would have sold it at some point?
Oh man, so this kind of gets to why I'm so happy I was kind of dumb. Like, like that I forgot it, and I never, I mean, I was always a newsie, and I was paying attention to what was going on. I remember hearing about Bitcoin and all the major events in Bitcoin and the blockstream war, the block size wars, and Michael Saylor and all that stuff, but I never identified as a Bitcoiner. I didn't think of myself as a holder. And at the time, it was under $1 in 2010, so didn't really have much in the way of value. And I figured I'd be better off if I just went and got a job. So that's what I did, and it just sort of disappeared from my view. And now it's I guess totally wiped my brain, and all I think about is is Bitcoin, and I'm happy about it. I'm really trying to pivot into this industry. I'm starting to work out a strategy hub and working with Josh at NovaSapien and working with another company that BitVault, and they do non-custodial multi-sig software wallets for iOS, Android, and desktop, and that's currently under development. And yeah, so I mean, not only did I recover my corn, but also I met these wonderful people in this community, and they're helping me rebuild my life and pivot into this industry. So it's not just about the Bitcoin; it's also about the community. But I'll say that it did take me about a year to stop paying attention to the Bitcoin price.
I would always say, Josh, what are you doing? What are you doing, man? You're looking at it still.
Well, you do that math in your head. We're so programmed to think in terms of dollars. Like from even before we know English very well, we go and we learn what money is when we try and grab something at the store and your parent says, sorry, that costs money. You're like, well, what's that? So it's incredibly hard to remove that conditioning. I'm still getting there as well. Here's a self-admission I'll make on the podcast right now. I removed the Bitcoin price from my lock screen on my phone. It's healthy. Like I used to open my phone and see the Bitcoin price like 50 times or 100 something times a day. It's just, it's nice, but it's unnecessary and it's just a waste of time. So yeah, I think there's a process with understanding Bitcoin. Not everybody gets to the point where they see that this is an obvious, inevitable future, that Bitcoin is going to become the widely accepted medium of exchange and reserve asset of the world. That's my conviction. And if you don't get all the way there, that's fine. But when you do get there, you realize one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, and you start to deprogram all that stuff. So Josh, I want to talk to you about this transition, man. Like, what are you doing? You're working with multiple different companies. What does it look like? And how are you doing, man? Like, what's the process been like, just generally?
Overall, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, I've met so many wonderful people in the space. Just went to Bitcoin 2025. I'm getting involved with local groups here in Northern Virginia, the DC group, and some other nearby groups. I'm working with BitVault as a project manager and technology strategist. I have a long programming background, full stack web development, so I'm just applying a lot of the technical skills I already had to Bitcoin and Bitcoin applications. And also from an ideological perspective, I was already identified as an anarcho-capitalist before this. That was one of the reasons why Porcfest was so appealing to me. So, as I learned more about Bitcoin, the principles of Bitcoin, it mapped almost perfectly to everything I already believed. So there wasn't, really any friction for me. In fact, it was sort of the missing piece of the puzzle that I never knew that I needed. So I'm very happy and glad to have found this community and my Bitcoin.
Oh man, so true. I was the same boat as you. I was a conspiracy theorist since I was 16. I was identified as libertarian, very, very sympathetic to the ideas of just anarcho-capitalism, free market. And it took me a long time to connect the dots. But when you do, the aha moment, it's like the missing puzzle piece that you thought you lost forever and you're never going to finish the puzzle. And then it comes all together. It's, for me, it gives me like a sense of understanding or making sense of the world, because many people, they struggle just to, like, they look at the news or they look outside, they're like, why is that happening? They get stressed. Bitcoin gives you the peace of mind to, and understand the money system, right? Because it's so integral. I'm going to stop ranting and get back to asking you guys questions.
No, absolutely.
Go ahead, Josh.
Before you
Joshua.
stop ranting, I would do a whole podcast. We should totally do a whole podcast on this, but I have a theory that I just would summarize, or like an observation, that our current world, because I have a lot of friends, some of my closest friends are more left-leaning, and they care a lot about social issues and these kinds of really important things, the taking care of our planet. And they associate capitalism with consumerism and with the Keynesian model of economics. And really, if capitalism is the pursuit of profit, which is one definition, it's not the definition in its current perspective, then we live in an anti-capitalist society because we're not pursuing profit by any stretch of the imagination. We're making monetary losses on our balance sheet, but that's not even considering the social losses from our social structures, or the environmental destruction, or these incredibly short-sighted decisions that are just destroying our world, destroying our family structures, destroying our happiness, our mental health. All this is being destroyed. So we're actually making losses, and we don't live in a free market. This is like a far cry from a free market. So, anyways, that's the idea that, you know, the anarcho-capitalist would trigger a lot of people. They're like, oh my gosh, like capitalism associates with this patriarchy and this like structure of government and this like control and fiat money. But really, that's a far cry from a free market or from a capitalist, if capitalism is the pursuit of profit.
It's so true. And I know, Joshua, you're in Boulder. I'm in Seattle. So we have similar political views when we go to the sauna or the climbing gym.
Yeah.
It's why do prices rise? Inflation is a result of corporate greed and, you know, supply chain and all this stuff. I try and those people that are on the left, that I call them like the activism oriented folks, like people that just genuinely want to make the world a better place, and they just haven't figured out Bitcoin yet. I believe when they do figure out Bitcoin, it is going to be a beautiful day.
Yes.
When the anarcho-capitalists and the leftists come together and they realize they're on the same team and it's the money printer that needs to go, it's, oh man,
Bingo.
It just gets me fired up.
And then they realize, 8 billion people, as Jeff Booth says, for the first time in human history, each individual is in service, living their life in service, selfishly in service of everyone else on the planet. 8 billion people serving 8 billion people. That's one of my favorite. I was so stoked to hear your podcast with Jeff Booth. That was incredible. He's such a hero of mine and respected voice. I really loved your story about your first ever Bitcoin transaction. And while we're on the topic of Josh making his first transaction, which was an incredibly, I remember that moment for the rest of my life. I'm sure Josh will as well. The first time you spend Bitcoin, that feeling of like that the idea of having autonomy and control over your time, over your asset there. I'd love you to hear more about that first transaction that you made.
Oh, me? Oh, man. I was in the room right next door. I'm not a technical guy, so,
yeah.
I followed BTC sessions, tutorials, and it took me months and months to really do the process because I was by myself. It took me hundreds of hours. I had to buy the hardware wallet. I got it. I realized, I don't have my own node. Okay, well, I got to get a Raspberry Pi. Now I got to download Umbrel, or now I got to flash Umbrel on there and then download the blockchain. It took me so long because I had a Raspberry Pi 2 at the time. Super slow. But yeah, man, it was that I wrote in my journal. I could pull it up. It was an incredibly emotional experience for me because it was that moment that connected the dots for all those years of me, fighting with the system. I'm the stubborn conspiracy theorist. I was like, wow, I just performed what through all of human history was only able to be done through a bank or an institution. Now I just transacted. And when you hit that button, it's like jumping out of I've never jumped out of a plane, but it's what you talked about before Josh was getting here is like your full commitment. When you broadcast that transaction, full commitment. And you don't know, like if you're not your first transaction specifically, there's just so much emotion involved. You have people telling you small test, but even that, you're like scared to lose $5 of Bitcoin. So I highly recommend the process of learning yourself. It's great to have somebody that can just like accelerate that learning process. I have a friend right now who bought his own hardware wallet, did the tutorials, got his Bitcoin onto cold storage. What I'm concerned about when it comes to bringing people into self-custody is how do you do it in a responsible way? There's more risk in certain ways, less risk in other ways. But do you guys have any advice for just where to get started with self-custody? We've mentioned some things on this podcast that may have gone over some people's heads, like multi-sig and multi-jurisdiction. Can you just highlight some of the considerations and maybe misconceptions, more focused on Joshua here, but both you guys, around self-custody?
Josh, did you want to take a thought on that first?
I would say the best place to start is NovaSapien.com.
There you go. Totally. Absolutely. So what are the situations where somebody would reach out if they're trying to set up self-custody, if they have inheritance? Like, what are the services you guys offer?
Yeah, so NovaSapien offers best practices for Bitcoin self-custody. So we have people, if you want to have one-on-one consulting, someone to hold your hand, kind of show you. That's like myself and a couple other people. We're incredibly passionate about it. It's like what we love to do. And then the vision is to have online courses that document those best practices step by step so that people can have their hand held for either a free price or a donation price. My goal is to translate this to every language, spread this around the world with a model that allows the consultants to get paid for their time, which supports them to distribute the materials and the kits and the online education in that language and the support for that around the world. Like you said, doing that responsibly is really important. A family member of mine recently asked me to send money to a crypto exchange, and I couldn't do it. I was cut in custody of their Bitcoin, and it was a big deal. Like the entire family got involved in this thing, and I was like, I can't do this. Get into this insecure wallet. It was some crypto hot wallet, and they had like downloaded it. Their friends said, "Oh, I've written down the 12 words." And then they're like, self-custody, I've done that. Yeah, but they don't, this is a decentralized exchange. The words are only backed up in one location. It's a hot wallet. He doesn't know he has malware on his phone. He's not broadcasting a single node. I've gone to great lengths to keep his Bitcoin disassociated from any individual's identity, non-KYC. And so I've created this great environment. And then someone who doesn't understand this thinks, okay, I understand self-custody because I know I've written down 12 words. So NovaSapien aims to first and foremost, educate the world on how to practice self-custody. And we provide the best practices and the materials. We have a kit that I might as well just show you the kit, actually.
Please.
So this is our NovaSapien kit. It's kind of cool, mole military style, freedom vibe. And then inside here, you have everything you need to create your keys and back them up. We use BIP38 word selection with dice as the source of entropy.
Okay.
And that is reaching into the universe and picking out a grain of sand of randomness. And that is the foundation of the security of your Bitcoin wallet. That and the entire security is wrapped up in that. So if you delegate or relegate that to a third party to create your seed for you, you're basically defeating the purpose, this like idea of Bitcoin. You need it to be decentralized, and you need to be able to do things yourself in a trustless environment. On that note, we recommend best practices for a seed signer. This is a Raspberry Pi Zero. You can see there it's a little motherboard. You can get those in most places around the world, and then you can build that yourself with the 3D printed cases and create your kit. You create your seeds on that as best practice. And if you really want to use your current setup, or you have like vendor, multi-sig, where you're using a lot of different types of hardware wallets, you can use this. You scrap the seed generation and still back up your keys in tamper-evident bags. Put them inside of the coin pouches, and then use a tamper-evident bags, which we have here. And so that way you can keep that in a fireproof bag as well. We have stainless steel for backing your cards up on stainless steel there, and with a QR code for the seed signer. And so it has everything you need in order to create your single signature, or your passphrase, or your 2 of 3 or 3 of 5 multi-sig wallet. So any level of security with any hardware wallet. And then we have the courses that will walk you step by step through how to back that up in a way that is secure, and the way that like other people have thought of. And I have had this question, just like honestly, like hey, I'm empowering people potentially to make really bad decisions. Like you come and you watch the first course, you write down 12 words, and then you go and you give your wallet to some fake exchange or something like that. So it's like they're with great, what is it called? With great something comes great responsibility.
Power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, I think there's a Bitcoin version of that, but yeah, it's essentially like you have great power in with Bitcoin. It empowers you. It empowers the individual, and we are responsible. With that comes great responsibility, and so imparting that on the people that take our courses is a challenge. And so I really want to. I take that seriously, and so I want to innovate different ways to provide the best solution to every demographic.
Yeah, and let me just add that storing it on a single hard drive in a non-climate controlled environment for 14 years is probably not a good way of doing it.
But it worked, man. As a videographer, I'll tell you, hard drives fail. That's a fact. They all fail. It's just a matter of time. You got to double back it up. Single point of failure is a term and a concept in Bitcoin. You do not want a single point of failure. So let me ask you two specific things. Why, and both you guys can answer this, why is multi-jurisdictional key storage important, and why is multi-signature important? And maybe multi-signature first, because it's a little more foundational.
Yeah. So Bitcoin relies on the security of the self-custody environment that you have. If you have a single signature, anyone who has those 12 words has your keys. If you have a passphrase, you have to have 2 of 2. It's almost like the worst part of multi-sig combines with the worst parts of single sig. You lose either one. But there's a lot of benefits to it with account level
I almost
access.
lost like a million sats because I forgot that I created a wallet with a passphrase. So
Yeah.
I opened my wallet back up,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Where's the Bitcoin? $900 of Bitcoin." I was freaking out for like 2 hours, and then I remembered because I put it in the tamper evident bag,
Yeah.
which is critical really quick because you know if somebody accessed those words. Like if you go on a vacation, you store it in your safe. It's possible. You never know. You just don't want to trust anyone, even people that are close to you.
Even yourself.
Even yourself. There you go. Yeah. So sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. Funny stories. Some of the people who I've done recoveries for, I've taken additional steps just voluntarily to run a protocol that looks through a whole series of BIP85 passphrases, brute force a few like basic passphrases. And it's funny how often people will have Bitcoin that they've forgotten about on one of these sub wallets or something. A certain demographic of Bitcoiner, that tries to hide things in certain ways. But yeah, or like sometimes you split up 24 words into 2 12-word wallets, or sorry, one 12-word wallet and then a second. It would rarely work out, but yeah, one 12-word wallet, one 24-word wallet. So you're checking these kinds of things. So that's also another benefit of having someone like NovaSapien to approach it, because there's lots of things that people won't think about that we like get stoked on nerding out over. So yeah, anyways, that's single signature passphrase. 3 of 5 multi-signature is actually the same number of backups as a passphrase wallet, because you want to have minimum of 3 backups of your seed phrase and of your passphrase. Journal, if you're using a hot passphrase, we do not recommend that, but a lot of people do keep like a password manager with their passphrase on it. Again, we do not recommend that, but a lot of people do. And whatever, mom's house or something for your passphrase. And then you've got your 3 backups for your seed phrase, a bank deposit box, gold box, or whatever, a safe. And then that's like 6 locations. Whereas your 2 of 3, you can reduce your number of copies with multi-signature because of your redundancy. You're looking at 2 copies of each. 2 of 3. So you've got 3 keys and you have 2 copies of them each, still 6 copies. So really a 2 of 3 multi-signature, and you can use one of them as a hot wallet, which is kind of cool. So you can use that as like your everyday wallet. So that's another reason to have that kind of security. And then the 3 of 5 is like the most secure, but it takes more time to set up. And that thing to like note is your descriptors. You need to keep your descriptors with your multi-signature as well, so it's a little bit more complicated. But really, if you take the time to set up your 2 of 3, it can be just as simple as a passphrase wallet, 6 locations, backups, and you can keep your descriptor hot on your wallet. The reason you'd use multi-signature would be because you have multiple family members that want to hold keys, or because you want to have a higher level of redundancy, higher level of security. There's also things like BitVault, which is a really great innovative company that's coming up with ways that you can manage duress. Like if you're under duress, they have certain procedures for that. There's a whole wealth of possibilities that you can implement with multi-signature, and they're just becoming more readily available, with better UI now. I feel like I could answer that question of exactly why you want a multi-sig better, but you could also go to our website and see some of the articles that we have not yet published. We're just launching, but we're planning on describing these things in ways that are really accessible. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Go ahead.
I'll just dive in there real quick and say I think single sig is probably, and Josh is the expert here, so NovaSapien can correct me, but I think single sig is probably sufficient for most people most of the time, and multi-sig is great, and it's definitely, I think, better, but it's also more complicated, and that's one of the reasons why BitVault is doing what they're doing, trying to provide multi-sig and do so in such a way that adds a whole layer of security features with a very streamlined user experience and user interface to make this higher level of sort of enterprise grade security more accessible to your average person, which right now it's not as accessible as single sig. So it's a matter of pros and cons, costs and benefits, and your willingness to do the work in either case. So, I encourage people to always do their own research, and NovaSapien will soon have free courses up that will go into great length on all of the different custody methods and how to do them. So obviously I would encourage people to check that out, but there's just a wealth of information all over the web on this. Some of it, though, yeah, I was just going to say some of it, though, might not be the most reputable, so
Yeah, I might make a correction on the courses. Maybe we want to provide them free, but I find that the research says that people actually value things. You'll sell more if people value it. So we want to make people value these courses. We'll probably do a donation base of any amount valued at like $300 a course or something like that, just so that people can understand the work that goes into the work that goes into delivering the course and kind of take it seriously. Yeah, but that then, and then I think Josh's statement on single signature is widely accepted. People like, single signature is good, but we don't recommend any amount of Bitcoin that's above a few $100s on a single sig, because it's all located right there with those words. So using a passphrase is like the standard in our kind of best practice, and then multi-signature. We aim, and Josh is really on point. Like he says, it's more complicated, and this is the perception. But I believe that the 305 multi-signature best practices course will make multi-signature available to and far more accessible, and showcase how it's far more secure and just as complicated as a passphrase wallet with regards to backups. It just takes a little bit more time to implement it, to understand it, which is basically what Josh said. But that's like a challenge. Like we want to bring Bitcoin security and best practice to the public and create Bitcoin adoption, like accelerate Bitcoin adoption across the world. And I think 305 multi-sig is a good standard for that as a goal.
Absolutely. It's if you treat every Bitcoin like it's $5 or $10 million, you start to make different decisions on the security setup. And similar to my experience with my first Bitcoin transaction, I remember when I went to multi-sig, I just slept better at night. Yep. I tweeted at that time, I was like, I can't believe I ever had a single point of failure. I watched the price of Bitcoin go from 16K to 70, and so the Bitcoin in the wallet, all of a sudden it's like it's bothering me. Like when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, if one person finds those keys, the Bitcoin's gone. So thinking further into the future is hard for some people, especially early on, and you have to bite that cost, right? For somebody who's maybe got $1,000 of Bitcoin, are they going to go spend $1,000 on hardware devices plus the steel kits and all that stuff? So one thing I just really want to hit real fast is the descriptors on the multi-sig, like backing up your keys. You have 3 keys or 5, whatever you choose.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 3 or 5 keys. 6
3 or 5 or
keys,
2 of 3. Yeah, but you also, which I did not know this when I set up my multi-sig, it wasn't in the tutorial I watched.
Oh, shit.
So I did not save my wallet descriptors or anything like that for like a year. And then I was in last year in Prague. Somebody's like, "Oh yeah, did you know that you have to do this?" And I'm like, "What?"
Oh my god, that is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I did since then. I have several backups.
Yeah,
of it
you want a
now.
descriptor with every key, unless you have a privacy security model. Yeah.
And my understanding is, if you have the keys but you lose the wallet, you can recreate the wallet file, right? The descriptors.
With you have to have every key to recreate.
Every key.
Unless you use seed hammers, which is really innovative. They have created a descriptor which has a portion of your descriptor, only a portion. And you can recreate that descriptor with any quorum. So you don't need all 5 keys or all 3 keys with using Seed Hammer's technology, which we're innovating right now to be able to be print available. So it's not just with a Seed Hammer software. You'll be able to print this, and we have like an air-gapped printer solution, which is kind of cool too. But basically, you can, because the privacy model would be that if someone just has your descriptor, they know all your bank balances. They know how much Bitcoin you have in the past, how much you've spent in the past, how much your current balance is, any transactions in the future is all going to be recoverable by your descriptor. So that may be very sensitive information for certain types of security models. What this allows you to do, kind of a Shamir, or I forget the exact name, backup, you've got a section of your descriptor, and then you can combine that with 2 of 3. Any 2 will create your descriptor, or the 3 of 5. Any 3 keys will recreate your descriptor. So that's a cool kind of feature as well. But the most important thing is you have to have your descriptor, otherwise you will lose your Bitcoin if you don't have all of those keys to recreate it with.
Ring the bell on that one. Let's remember that one. Josh, back to you, man. What is the power of time locking? How does that technology, first of all, why do you want to use it? What, as a user, what's the situation where you're like, this is valuable to me? And how does it change self-custody?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a lot of reporting recently about crypto and Bitcoin people being attacked, and it's a common understanding in the Bitcoin community about the wrench attack. And so, as somebody myself who's gone public as a Bitcoin OG and have put myself out there, I need to be very aware of that kind of asymmetrical attack. So, I need to, not just for my own sake, but for my family's sake as well. So BitVault, I think, is doing something really innovative because they are including by default time delays and duress codes and decoy wallets and other security features that will mitigate the wrench attack by a significant amount, in my opinion. So essentially, time delays is what it sounds like. It's like a time delay safe in a bank or at a grocery store where it only opens, a preset time, and maybe that time is randomized. Maybe you choose that time. Generally, I think we're recommending about a week or 2 weeks, but so if in that case someone holds a wrench over your head and tells you to give them your Bitcoin, you can't, because you don't even have access to it except in a limited window where it's open. So that complicates that kind of attack vector. And then duress code is essentially a way of signaling to the other people in your multi-sig setup that you're under duress, and to not sign transactions or to call the police or whatever needs to happen. And so that's good. And then finally, decoy wallets as well. We're exploring that as an option. So maybe your attacker does walk away with something thinking they've got you, but that your real bags are safe and sound. So and also we're looking at things like setting it up so it'll make it look like a transaction has gone through if you're under duress, but it actually hasn't gone through. We're just looking at all sorts of different ways of allowing people to protect their Bitcoin, but also protect their lives in particular. There's a lot of great tech out there which is focused on the tech and Bitcoin and protecting your Bitcoin, but there's not as much out there to protect the human holding the Bitcoin. So that's what we're trying to do.
As well as notifications. You mentioned it briefly, but how does that work? So if it's like a duress code you mentioned, how does that notification pop up? Do they have the app on their phone, or does it show up in their wallet on their computer, or how does that work?
Currently, we're under development, and the integration, as I understand it, is currently with Telegram, but we're also exploring having the notifications in app and through other side channels aside from Telegram.
And what's your relationship? So you're working with NovaSapien, you're working with TimeVault. How does your day-to-day look, and what are you doing now with your time now that you have the ability to rebuild your career and go any direction? Just talk to me about that.
Sure, yeah. So I just started working in the co-working space, Strategy Hub, in Strategy's headquarters in Tyson's Corner. I have set up a desk there, and every day I go in and
Congratulations on that, Josh.
prompt
It's your
the A.
your first week there, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. I'm very happy. It's awesome. I just got the free lunch. It was amazing.
Nice.
So,
What'd they serve? What was the food? Steak?
it was pasta.
Nice. Some nice carbs for the afternoon.
Yeah. So at any rate, yeah, and honestly, so I spent most of my time in my life up to this point as a full stack developer, coding, web dev, PHP, JavaScript, MySQL, C Sharp were sort of my go-tos, not assembly and C++. I'm sorry, but at any rate, the fact of the matter is what I've found. I think most people are in this camp now, is that I personally am way more productive with AI than I ever was before, and I'm able to accomplish coding tasks and development tasks that I know would have taken me weeks to do in a matter of days, if not hours now. So I'm honestly, the thing I'm doing the most is, aside from promoting NovaSapien and working with them, and developing and BitVault, I'm just working with the AI and trying to figure out everything I can about AI, because that is really where the future's going. And I know Michael Saylor talks about that a lot. It won't be too long before those LLMs are in robots, and they'll be able to articulate both cognitively and physically just about anything we'll need them to articulate. So I'm very much looking forward to the future, and very much optimistic about where it's going. And of course, those robots will need a currency, and they will want a digital currency. And I'm hoping that it'll be Bitcoin. I think it's going to be Bitcoin.
One thing I noticed with Bitcoiners is that they're not very concerned about AI displacing them, right? They're thinking, okay, this is an inevitable thing that's happening. How do I prepare for it? I love your mentality. So many people similar to Bitcoin think they're too late to AI, right? I was in the same boat up until a couple months ago. I just thought to myself, I do all my own writing. I'm not using this tool. And now I'm like, it's helping me come up with titles and thumbnail ideas and all types of stuff. Definitely supercharging my ability to get things done. So that's really cool. I want to ask you, Joshua, why NovaSapien? How did the name come to be?
NovaSapien is something that my good friend Elise created for me in 2019. I was on a road trip living in my van, and I had just gone on the Bitcoin standard. I never had a huge amount of money. I ran an aviation company. I lived expedition to expedition, and I was like, I realized it. Then needle dropped. I was like, all right, Bitcoin. And so I was at her house, and I was like, man, I wanted to like talk about economics and history, and just talk about all these things that I'm passionate about in Bitcoin, and like the future. And she's like, Glenn laughs at the way that I always talk about things in this Bitcoin way that she didn't quite get. And she was like, oh, you're kind of like the new human, or like the new wisdom, jokingly. And she was like NovaSapien. She's like a school teacher. I think she in Latin. And I was like, oh yeah, new human, new wisdom. So it's like we as humanity, we are in an incredibly unique time of history. In astrology, I'm not a big time astrologer, but it's like the dawning of the age of Aquarius, which is extremely ironic if you're not into that kind of stuff, that it would line up so precisely. We're like transitioning to this information age where the incentive structures return to the hunters and gatherers out of the book, The Sovereign Individual. And so that's incredible that these incentive structures are returning to where they were when we were hunters and gatherers. And we are birthing humanity into a new understanding of the universe. And I think that Bitcoin is like the idea whose time has come. It's the ability for us to shed the incentive structures that concentrate the monopoly on violence, so that the power shifts from the state into the individual. where we are free to travel, we're free to accumulate capital, we can exercise our will on the other side of the world at the speed of light through a computer. These are all incredible things, and I think, NovaSapien kind of symbolizes that transition to the information age. As we become new humans, we discover this new wisdom in everything.
Josh, do you feel like a new human?
I feel like my life has shifted in a foundation.
Other Josh.
Oh, sorry,
Other Josh.
Josh. Yeah,
but both of you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no comparison to me today versus me a year ago, honestly.
That's crazy. How's your mental health? Like, is that an ongoing thing, or is it something that's a bit in the past and you're feeling different?
Well, once I stopped paying attention to the charts, my mental health improved a lot.
That's true, man. That's very true. There's so much noise in the bull market. I was going to ask you guys about that. Just the hype, right? This cycle, the hype is the Bitcoin treasury companies. And Joshua and I were talking about how just stacking sats and staying humble, you'll actually end up with more Bitcoin. How do you guys think about this trend around Bitcoin treasury companies, stable coins, Bitcoin moving more mainstream? Just any general thoughts on the trajectory of Bitcoin?
I'll jump in there and say, we're still very early. It's a growth market. Not only individuals, but corporations are going to need secure ways of holding their Bitcoin, and they're going to want quote unquote Bitcoin exposure. I know that's kind of a taboo term for maximalists in some cases, but frankly, number go up and Bitcoin exposure is probably the most appealing aspects of Bitcoin to no coiners and everyone else. So we need to persuade, at least in my view, I want to persuade people with what works and address people where they are, not where I want them to be.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, I feel like there is just an incredibly huge market here, and it's also an existential element. There, if we don't get people into Bitcoin, or people don't choose Bitcoin, then if and when there's some sort of catastrophe or financial crisis, I don't know what it's going to be, whether it's hyperinflation or sovereign debt crisis or whatever it'll be. I have no idea, but it's going to probably be something. And the more people who are on Bitcoin, the less pain there will be. And so that's really what I'm here for. I want to lessen the pain, get as many people on the lifeboat as possible, and that way, if they pull the rug, or when they pull the rug on civilization, there'll be less cannibals in the streets trying to eat me. So
that's true. I mean, that's the real.
It's self-interest at the end of the day.
Well, if you're motivated by self-interest, Bitcoin actually can channel that self-interest into profit and prosperity for others. That's, to your point, Joshua, what Jeff Booth talks so nicely about is, this is a system where instead of all the value that you've created, Joshua, you work for so long and then somebody else is printing the money and devaluing your currency. I saw a tweet the other day. It was like, imagine working for 40 years from 1980 to 2020, and then the government prints 40% of the currency and you just lost, 40% of your time on this earth. It's mind blowing. And the life raft it's expandable to 8 billion people, right? There's no limit on the life raft. It's not a zero sum game in that sense.
Actually, it's stronger the bigger it gets.
There you go.
And,
it sure is. Less cannibals. We don't want cannibals.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And Josh, when we had a conversation in Vegas, you told me about this idea that you had around meeting people where they're at. You just touched on it, but can you explain a little deeper on this? You're building a system to try and basically funnel down, all the different reasons why somebody might resonate with Bitcoin. Obviously, number go up for a no coiner is the best marketing. We know that, but there's 500 different ways to orange pill somebody. So you talk to me about how you're thinking about that.
So yeah, both my parents have degrees in psychology, so it was inflicted pretty heavily on me throughout most of my life. So I think a lot about persuasion, and not so much from like a marketing perspective, but simply just in terms of trying to persuade people and argue your position. using premises and syllogisms and conclusions and being honest through the whole process. And generally speaking, I think, whoever has the best argument wins. So it doesn't matter if I'm right or you're wrong or vice versa. If we have a debate and we're confronted with two competing arguments, whichever argument has the better data and evidence should win. And so to that end, I'm trying to compile all of the different reasons. If you're in South America, your reasons for holding Bitcoin will be different than if you're a businessman in Idaho. Now, there are 1,000, like you said, there's a 500 or 1,000 different reasons to hold Bitcoin, but only 2 or 3 will be really compelling or persuasive. So I'm just trying to build a system to argue for Bitcoin, but do so in such a way that argues it that is the most compelling to whoever you're talking to. So that there's a lot of nuance in there, and I was just working on that the other day and trying to build it out. I'll release it for free on GitHub for anybody who's interested in it. So that'll be available on my GitHub account, which you can get to from my website at secsov.com, secsov.com. And yeah, so I of course encourage feedback, and if anybody has any other ideas to include, I want to hear them.
Beautiful. Joshua, any final words? And then both you guys, where can we keep in touch, follow, and see what you build in the future?
NovaSapien.com, and we have our contact there. Reach out to chat about Bitcoin. We offer a free 30-minute consultation. And I'm super stoked to accelerate Bitcoin adoption across the world.
Me too.
Josh? NovaSapien BTC on socials, X and Instagram.
Yep. Fantastic. All those links are down in the description below. And Josh, are you on Twitter, Noster? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so if you just go to my website, secsov.com, you will see my X account, and I have a Telegram. I'm not on Noster yet. I know. It's terrible.
We'll get you there. We'll get you there.
Both of us. We got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll zap you right away, man. It's a beautiful thing when people start sending you value across the internet.
Thank you.
Man, guys, this has been a fantastic conversation. I wish we could have done it in person. Let's do another one. You guys are just crushing it. NovaSapien, BitVault, all the above. Just very bullish on what you guys are doing. Bullish on Bitcoin. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
Love it. We'll see you in person next time, Kyle.
Love the energy, Joshua. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap on the episode. Thank you guys for watching. If you got any value out of this show, I would love to hear about it. You can tag me on Twitter or Noster, or just drop a comment below. Help spread the message, share this show. And if you haven't already, please leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening to podcasts. It means a ton, and it helps grow this show. So on that note, I've been thinking about ways that I can make this more sustainable, monetize the podcast without selling out or, selling you guys something that I don't genuinely believe in. And the way that I'm going to do that is by being transparent and just sharing what I'm working on and giving you guys opportunities to support it if you believe in it. So first off, I'm going to Bulgaria in just a few weeks to make a film called Build on Bitcoin, The Bulgarian Journey. I'll be traveling the country, learning about the different initiatives and telling the Bulgarian story, hopefully inspiring people to go from Bitcoin holders to actually Bitcoin builders. If you're interested in either supporting the project, $89 gets your name listed in the credits of the film, or just following along. We post all of our updates here on Geyser, and this is our Lightning address if you'd like to donate some sats. Secondly, if you're looking to level up your energy, cognition, and focus, I've got the perfect product for you. It's called Earthy Energy. I founded this company, Earthy, in 2023 because I recognized that the supplement industry was shady, was full of crap, was using things like proprietary blends to protect themselves, but actually hurt their customers because their customers are spending money to make themselves healthier. How can they possibly make themselves healthier if they don't know what they're putting in their body? So we recognized that there was an incentive problem here, and we started Earthy with complete ingredient transparency. So we actually tell you, if you can see that, we tell you every single ingredient in the product and where it's from down to the farm level. So in 1 scoop of Earthy Energy, you're going to get almost 5 grams of cacao, which gives it the delicious hot chocolate flavor, some cardiovascular benefits, 120 milligrams of guayusa, which is a clean caffeine source from the Amazon. And it's similar to yerba mate. It gives you this long-lasting clean energy without a crash. And then functional mushrooms, lion's mane and cordyceps give you a brain, cognition, memory, focus boost with the lion's mane, as well as some immunity. The cordyceps gives you ATP production, which actually improves cardiovascular performance. It's almost like a little performance enhancing drug, if you know what I mean. So if you are looking to level up your work, your workout, whatever you're working on, the goals and dreams that you have in this life they're attainable, but you need the energy to go after them. And I started this company and I believe in this product, so that's why I'm sharing it with you guys. So if you want to try Earthy, the link is down below. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your guys' support. Till next time.